Go.
All right, we're going to look at the shoulder girdle, the picture energetically of the shoulder girdle from the standpoint of being a shock absorber. So your question involved physically and energetically. So let's look at the energetics, and that is if the shoulder girdle is pressed tight against the ribs, the events of your life do not bounce off. What they do is they impact the shoulder girdle and they penetrate. And so you have a person where everything bothers them more than it should. They have no buffer, so to speak. So energetically look at it that way. And also from the standpoint, if we're talking about the shoulder girdle, we're also talking about the clavicles, and we're talking about this ridge in our body here where the flows come down through the body from heaven to earth, okay? And if that is tight and not moving, then your flows from heaven to earth are restricted, okay, energetically. So now let's look at the structural aspect of the shoulder girdle. And we do know that for every 10 degrees the humerus moves, 5 degrees of movement in the scapula. Okay, so there's a relationship that exists between the two. So now let's take that information and take it to our circumduction of evaluation. Okay, so that if you think about when you're doing circumduction to the shoulder, think about a mixing bowl. You're mixing. So think about that circle that you're making with the arm, and how are you moving through this circle? This is your circumduction, okay? Now, if you're creating the circle, this is, let's say, 12, 3, 6, 9. If you're moving through your circumduction and you get this kind of a pattern to the posterior quadrant of the circumduction, and it does something like that, what that's telling you is there is a problem under the scapula. That there's tension in the ribs, which are causing perhaps the ribs to rise under the scapula, and the scapula is not moving well over the ribs. So this pattern is telling you ribs, upper back, look there. Okay, now, if we're doing another pattern, this might be a little confusing. Let's go on to the circle here, 12, 3, 6, 9. If you're doing your circumduction and your pattern comes like that, you're coming around, it's coming through this, it's coming down, and then it goes, this kind of thing. Then what you're looking for here is the shoulder joint. That's where you want to look for the shoulder joint itself. Okay, and where we would look for the shoulder joint is you would look in your posterior humerus work, you'd look up in the clavicle area, that kind of thing. And you might also pick up some stuff in the ribs, but this is particularly addressing the shoulder joint or aiming you to the shoulder joint. So now here we're talking about range of motion. Now, supposing you put somebody on the table and you start to do your circumduction and they have no problem with range of motion. But as you're moving their arm through the circumduction, think about when you're a kid and you're riding your bike and you put your foot on the bike was still going forward, but your foot was kind of dragging. Can you get that feeling? So I want you to think about, there's nothing wrong with the range of motion, but the quality of the movement. That's one, a kind of a draggy feeling. Then there's another feeling, and that is that when a person goes, little hitches, that's exactly, you described it perfectly. They have perfect range of motion, but it's the quality of the movement that is not good. So when you take a person through your evaluation for the shoulder, and you're evaluating this shoulder, it's the quality of the movement as well as the range of motion that you're looking for. Okay, and that you would just work everywhere. As far as the quality, you don't really know where that's coming from. But you can improve that. First, you'd look at your upper back. You look at along the border of the scapula, both medial and lateral. Clavicles, okay? The scapula, or the trapezius edge, look really well along there. Look up along the occiput. It's all so interrelated, you don't know where you're going to come up with the answer, but little by little. Now, Tracy, to further give us a hands-on feeling of what the evaluations are doing, what I would like to do is put up a table and have you evaluate all three of us,
Okay.
and feel the difference between 1, 2, 3, right in a row. No work, just evaluate. And we can all do this. You can have the experience as well. Then put a person on the table, do the upper back and shoulder work, sit them up and reevaluate. We often don't do that in ZB. We don't reevaluate unless somebody has a real serious problem, but it'll give you a sense of what have I done. Okay, now there's another, I think I would like to mention the subscapular space here. The scapula can be tightened by the subscapularis up underneath here, and it can easily be reached by when you put a fulcrum in, just when you're doing the medial border, and you can bring your thumb around and work in this space as well. And so we can talk about that a little bit when we get to the tables, and be a little bit more specific about that when we're at the tables. Okay? Does that feel good to everybody?
That sounds great.
Good.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.